What's good, Fight family? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be breaking down UFC Fight Night, Hernandez versus Pereira. It's going to be taking place tomorrow. I believe it's like the regular scheduled times, like around 3 p.m. Pacific Central Time. Can convert that to wherever you live at. You know, we didn't do too hot last week. I mean, I went positive on my pick rate, but for the main event, didn't do so hot. So I'm looking to get that one back. We were just about to go even on main events this year, but you know, it's just how 2024 is going, I guess. So that's the name of the game this year. Let's just get right into the first fight of the night, though. Austin Lane taking on Robelli Despain. Honestly, this is a trap fight. They're starting the night off with a trap fight. I wouldn't bet on this fight. Usually, I would be riding with Robelli Despain, getting this one done by a first-round knockout. If you want to prop him under 2.5 minutes, under whatever you want to do, go under, because the guy usually gets a finish. But when you see this man at minus 300 taking on Austin Lane, who is chinny as hell and finds ways to get knocked out spectacularly often, but at the same time, he's a grappler and he's got much more fight experience. Anybody that watched Robelli Despain's last fight in the UFC would have a really hard time ever wanting to pick him again against somebody that's just not like a fat slob on the feet. Austin Lane isn't that. He's actually quite athletic. If he can manage to immediately tie up Robelli, I think this fight's over. I don't know if Austin Lane's going to chase any finishes when he is on the ground, which is disappointing. I don't think you want to give Robelli any chance to get back to his feet once you get him there. But, you know, I would side with Austin Lane being able to just hold Robelli Despain down. Usually, I'm not going to be picking that. I'm going to be going risky today. I am going to be putting my pick on Robelli Despain, but I'm not going to be betting on that fight, and I highly advise that you guys don't either, unless you just don't care if you lose some money, because you most likely will. We move on up the card. Melissa Martinez taking on Alice Ardoin. Oh gosh, this is rough. I know very little about both of these fighters. Yeah, no, this is a rough one to call. Is Melissa Martinez debuting or something? Something about her just doesn't seem familiar. I recognize Alice Ardoin. Man, some of these fights on this card are going to be rough. I'm not going to lie, I think all the first three of the night, it's like a coin toss, dude. Alice Ardoin, she's 9-6. Oh, she lost to Shannon. Yeah, okay, I do remember her. Yeah, no, we're going to be siding with Melissa Martinez getting this one done by a decision, because 90% of female fighters don't have finishing potential. We move on up the card. Jessica Penne taking on Elise Reed. I'm going to be siding with Elise Reed. Jessica Penne is just old. This could end up being one of those matchups where like the old crafty vet just kind of lays and prays on Elise Reed, or like slightly looks better in the striking the whole fight, so the judges have to give it to Jessica Penne. But I think Elise Reed's going to be able to chase grappling and maybe even look a little bit better in the boxing department. But most importantly, I think she's going to chase the grappling, just get Jessica Penne down to the ground and hold her there. So yeah, I'm going to trust Elise Reed getting this one done by decision. There's a strong possibility that I start off the card 0-3. Let's just hope for that mythical 3-0 start, because with these three fights, it's looking rough. 4 fights, actually. Holy fuck. We move on up the card. Jocelyn Edwards versus Tamires Vidal. Oh, Jocelyn Edwards, bro. She fights so often that I almost can't even hate, but at the same time, yeah, no, okay, so she lost to Aylin Perez, lost to Cornell. Yeah, see, oh my gosh. I hate specifically picking Jocelyn Edwards fights. Tamires Vidal, how did she look in her last one? Lost to Gato. Lost to oh no. Okay, well, if MMA math is working here, and it usually isn't, I am gonna have to side with Jocelyn Edwards getting this one done by a decision. It's gonna be a boring clinch fest. There might be a little bit of grappling involved, because Tamires is gonna take Edwards down, or Edwards is gonna try to take her down, and then they're gonna reverse. It's gonna be a really shit fight, I feel like. Tamires Vidal's one shot in this is like a knockout blow, or drop Edwards, steal a round after you lose the whole round, and then, I don't know, clinch another round. Women's MMA, man. Moving on, up the card. Great fight. Brad Katona taking on Gene Matsumoto. This is a hard fight to call. Brad Katona is the seasoned vet, his second chance in the UFC now, and he's looked decent. Gene Matsumoto is an undefeated young kid. I say kid even though he's older than me. He's a kid for the sport, bro. He's really young. He's like 26 or something, 25. He looked really good in his last fight. He made mistakes, but he also proved that he had crazy cardio and heart. I think Brad Katona has the exact type of build and style matchup for Gene that could cause him problems and give him his first professional loss. But I think Gene Matsumoto is honestly a special talent out of Brazil. I think he's undefeated against decent competition as well. He's not just been can crushing out there in Brazil. So I am going to trust Gene Matsumoto to get this one done. I think he's going to drop Brad Katona really bad and find a submission afterwards. I think Brad's going to be tough enough to survive the initial onslaught, but eventually he's going to fold and he's going to tap out. So yeah, I got Gene Matsumoto by finish. And we move on up the card. The head of the prelims, Mateus Nicolau taking on Asu Almobayev. Asu's at number 14, basically just outside of the rankings, or I mean just in the rankings. And Mateus Nicolau is just exiting the top 5. I think this is an amazing matchup. Asu is a heavy pressure grappler, and he's got great grappling. He's one of the best scramblers in that division for sure. Mateus Nicolau has great counter striking. He's good at moving backwards. He's good at setting up knees and setting up straight right hands, which you don't see all too often at flyweight, not the way that Mateus Nicolau does it. I think if Asu Almobayev is reckless, he could easily run into one of those knees and get blasted. But I think the guy he's too relentless, and his grappling is going to be too good for Mateus Nicolau, who honestly is having a little bit of an unfortunate skid here down the rankings. I think this is going to be another one for him. I think Mateus is going to shoot down even further, down to like the bottom 8. And Asu Almobayev is going to, catapult himself up as a prospect. I'm glad they're doing this because flyweight could use some more names. That's why Kai Asakura is getting a title shot in his first fight in the promotion. It's because we don't have enough names at flyweight. So this guy's going to add some depth to the division. And yeah, I hope he gets it done. We move on up the card. Darren Elkins taking on Daniel Pineda. Darren Elkins is just the straight, grappler, has a lot of heart, is really tough. Daniel Pineda, super tough himself. I think every single win he has is a finish, which is absolutely fucking absurd. In his last bout against Nathaniel Wood, I believe it was, he was looking, honestly, a little bit better than he should have. Like, at points, it looked like he might be able to get Nathaniel Wood out of there. He did end up getting decisioned, but he looked good, and he, again, almost finished the fight at points. I think Daniel Pineda is going to be able to find a finish on Darren Elkins. I hope he doesn't just get grapple spammed and out-wrestled the whole fight, because if it turns into a fucking wrestling match, most people aren't going to beat Darren Elkins, unfortunately. It's his whole game plan. So I'm going to trust Daniel Pineda, but the odds are like slight pick 'em. Daniel's just barely the underdog somehow. So if you can get your money in on that, I'd go for it. I'd prop him by a fucking submission probably. Then we move on up the card. Jake Hadley versus Cameron Smotherman. Cameron Smotherman is coming in on short notice, and the odds are still very close. So this guy must be somewhat decent. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought that Jake Hadley was taking on Brady Highstand, so I was really coming in here with my knowledge on Highstand and how that matchup would go. I don't know who Cameron Smotherman is. Yeah, I guess this is going to be my one blind pick. I hope he's not just some random stud. I'm going to trust Jake Hadley, who looked really good in his last performance that I counted him out in. I'm going to trust him to get this one done with his slick striking, maybe mixing in some grappling against the new guy who's taking this on what I'd imagine is like 2 days' notice. Don't let me down, Jake Hadley. Then we move on up the card. We've got a house legend now. Charles Johnson taking on Sumadarji. Some of you are probably wondering how the fuck somebody like Charles Johnson become a house legend to me and my roommates. But this man has been on an electric streak this year. I counted him out too many times, and then I started to ride with him, and it's actually worked out, bro. The Josh Van fight catapulted him in my eyes as one of the GOATs of the house, man. He not only has won me some crazy bets, and he topped off a parlay that night with a 3rd round comeback knockout against Josh Van. Just wildness, madness. I have had trouble across my whole channel career picking Charles Johnson because he fucking beats people he shouldn't beat, and he loses to people that he shouldn't lose to. It's some of the most outrageous, infuriating shit ever. This is one of those matchups. Sumadarji has the exact style matchup to honestly beam Charles in the stand-up with right hands. I don't know why, I just have a weird feeling that Charles Johnson can get caught bad in the first round by Sumadarji and TKO'd. Charles Johnson, although I'm saying this, he does have really good head movement. He's got really good footwork. He's always in the fight. Even when it kind of looks like he's gassing out, he doesn't quit on himself. I'm going to have to ride with Charles Johnson. Again, I just put him on my fucking house legends board, like whenever that Josh Van fight was. We wrote it down immediately. I've got to side with him. Look, even if he loses this one, he's still a legend in my eyes for what he has done. He's undefeated this year so far, though. I'm going to trust him to have his Kevin Holland type of year and end of the year with like 4 or 5 fights, and he doesn't lose any of them. So I'm going to trust Charles Johnson to get this one done. In terms of technically how I see this going, I think the first round is going to be rough for him, but I think if he uses his head movement and gets on his bike and tries to steal some momentum at any points he can in the first round, going into the second round, I think that his cardio and his pace are going to be way too much for Sumidarji. And Sumidarji, something you'll notice about his technique, he starts to look very sloppy after the first round. So yeah, I'd pay big attention to that. If you're live betting and Charles Johnson's getting pieced in the first round, but it doesn't look like he's going to get put out of there, I would bet the house on Charles Johnson winning the next 2 rounds or finding a way to chase a finish, especially with the momentum he has. I know the guy wants to make good money for him and his family. This is his opportunity. We move on up the card. Rob Font taking on Kyler Phillips, co-main event of the night. I'm so glad this co-main didn't fall through because it's a great fight. Rob Font really only has boxing, unfortunately, and he's looking more and more weathered and aged as we go, especially these last 2 years. He just doesn't look like the contender that he was back in 2021. Kyler Phillips, on the other hand, has had some setbacks, I'd assume due to injury, but he's back in here and he's sitting at a minus 440, which just goes to show you what everybody thinks about Kyler Phillips. If you've followed my channel for a cool minute now, I've been high on Kyler Phillips forever. I've always said that I think he's going to be a future champion. He mixes up everything so well, and he has such a fluid, dynamic style that's pretty unique to him. He's like a ninja. So I'm going to ride with Kyler Phillips getting this one done, mixing in his wrestling when he needs to, going for crazy spin kicks and whatnot, as he always does, but primarily using his grappling, because I know Kyler Phillips is keen to the danger that Rob Font presents, which is that boxing. You know, his boxing is always going to be a threat, so you got to make sure that you neutralize it. I think he's going to do fine doing that, honestly. So, yeah, I'm going to side with Kyler Phillips getting this one done. We move on up the card. Anthony Hernandez taking on Michel Pereira. Crazy fight. Fluffy has proved me wrong. Maybe actually only one time. I've sided with him every other time. I picked against him when he fought Kevin Holland, and so that was a good one. And then I picked against him when he fought Roman Kopylov recently, which was my dud. Anthony Hernandez's pressure in wrestling is a bit better than I thought it would be. I've always known he had good pressure, but I didn't know his grappling could be that good. He got right on it against Kopylov, just knew what he had to do and executed the game plan flawlessly, which is a really good finish win to get as well, choking out somebody like that. But Michel Pereira genuinely looks like he's come into his own at middleweight. It looks like he's been taking his career much more seriously. I can't believe this guy is sitting at underdog money. You know, it's almost a pick 'em. But Michel Pereira at underdog money, I was already siding with him. Now I really have to. I think that he's going to land a vicious body knee on Anthony Hernandez at some point in this fight when they're standing up. And I think it's going to fold Anthony Hernandez immediately, similar to how Kevin Holland did it. He's certainly bulked up a little bit, Hernandez has, and I think he could take more of a shot than he could have back when he fought Kevin Holland. But I don't think many people in that division can take a shot from Michel Pereira, point blank, period. The guy's explosive as hell. He has the last name Pereira, which I would just be afraid of in 2024, regardless of who's got it. Anthony Hernandez's win con, the wrestling, of course. Like if he can immediately clinch up Michel Pereira, just get that body lock on him like Brendan Allen did recently to Imavov and just collapse him. It's going to be really rough for Michel Pereira. And on top of that, if it gets out of the first round, it's probably going to be really tough for Michel Pereira, just simply for the fact that his cardio isn't going to be the same as Hernandez's. Hernandez's whole game is conditioning. Damn, do I switch my pick? Nah, fuck it. I'm going to die on this hill. I'm going to ride with Michel Pereira. But again, it's a pick 'em for a reason. So if you're going to bet money on this one, bet wisely. Yeah, I guess that's all for me today, guys. Let me know what you guys think of this card down below. I'll catch y'all.